Hello and welcome to another edition of the Sideliners on Wire TV. I'm your host, Nick Wetzel, and I'm joined by Andrew, Jiggy, and also Lenny shown off camera. Tonight we'll be discussing Week 6 in the NFL, and we'll also take a look at the MLB postseason and see how the championship series and how we got there is shaping up. So let's get into it.
You ready? Let's go! Yeah! For those of you that want to know what we're all about, it's like this, yo. This is 10% luck, 20% skill, 15% concentrated power of will, 5% pleasure, 50% pain, and 100% reason to remember the name.
All right, Len, so obviously we're in the championship series right now, but let's talk about how we got here. So, I mean, the wild card games this year, some of the best. I mean, front office of the MLB has to be very happy with what that's turning out to be.
100%.
So I'll let you start. You want to talk AL or NL?
Well, we'll start off with the AL. That was the first game played, and that atmosphere in Toronto was nuts.
Oh, my God.
Absolutely insane. And we were here, actually, when that game was being played.
Yeah,
and everybody's getting notifications and everything. And who would have thought Edwin Encarnacion, in extra innings, would hit that mammoth shot.
Oh, right off the bat, everyone there.
Oh, my God. Through my TV, I could hear just white noise from Toronto just blowing up.
Off the bat.
Insane. And you would think, with that wave behind them, Toronto had a decent shot to, pull some upsets along the way through the postseason and make some noise. And, find their first World Series since '93.
The one thing I came away in that game was Buck Showalter has a possible Cy Young candidate in his bullpen. I mean, when you have a closer who's a Cy Young candidate, they had an incredible year. And I get the whole debate of whether, we're on the road, do we go with our closer to preserve the tie, or do we wait until we get the lead? But once you start getting into the later innings and you have bullpen guys going multiple innings, you got to get your best guy in there. I mean, how did your best reliever not get into an 11-inning game?
100%. How could you not have such a valuable asset to your team? I mean, it's do or die, win or go home, and your guys sitting down watching the game, 100% healthy, could have gone out there, insane. And then to put Ubaldo Jimenez, of all people, I mean, it came to the point where you have Zach Britton and you choose Ubaldo Jimenez. I mean, granted, he pitched well, but Ubaldo Jimenez is Ubaldo Jimenez.
Yeah.
That was insane. And I guess, the better team won, the better managerial and coaching staff obviously won, paid off, and the better team moved on.
And then you mentioned Ubaldo Jimenez. I know going up to the postseason, he had a nice stretch of games. But if you look at his stats in the regular season, I think his ERA was over 7. So it's not even like he was having a good year. And Zach Britton, like I said, Cy Young candidate. That doesn't happen. That doesn't happen for closers. So you got to get that guy in.
You need to. I mean, let him throw 3-4 innings. It doesn't matter.
Why not? Your
if
best
you
guy.
lose, he's doing what he's doing now, sitting watching the games at home.
At least you're losing you're going down with your best weapon.
Yeah.
And I'd always rather prefer that than the what-ifs, which is what we're going to have now for what Baltimore's going to have until April.
Exactly.
So you go from one manager who didn't use his closer to Terry Collins who did. I mean, what a game that was.
Yeah.
I mean, the pitcher, it was literally everything everyone expected to be. You have Madison Bumgarner for the Giants going up against Thor and the Mets.
Nuts.
And it couldn't have been any better. And then Terry Collins brings Familia in the 9th, and then Gillespie hits a 3-run home run. Mets fans don't go home happy.
Yeah. Conor Gillespie, who would have thought, third baseman batting 8th for the Giants. I mean, you look at that lineup and you see solid guys who are in and out. You know that they're San Francisco Giants. You know that they're winners. Brandon Belt, Brandon Crawford, Hunter Pence. I mean, these are guys that are stable in the lineup. And the one guy that breaks your back is Conor Gillespie. Sad day to be a Met fan, but what a game. And you have to be happy at the performance that Thor put out there. That man dominated.
Definitely. I mean, you can't say anything else about it. And I feel like it's just the San Francisco Giants way, where guys, Conor Gillespie, it just happens like that all the time. It's never like the big guy for them. You never really see like a Buster Posey do that for them. Not that he does. I mean, he does all the work in the beginning of the game and whatnot. But it's always that guy that you wouldn't expect for the Giants. And that's just their MO, I feel like.
It's the way they win. It's a tight-knit group of guys. They believe in each other. They believe, hey, listen, Buster Posey can do it. We know Conor Gillespie can do it. And, hey, that's the secret to winning.
And I think we mentioned it going into that game. There's no one I'd rather have starting a must-win game for me than Madison Bumgarner.
Of course.
The guy's just, going into the 9th inning, Madison Bumgarner probably also had the hardest hit ball of that game, too.
Yeah.
There's nothing this guy can't do. He's incredible.
Freak athlete. And I believe this is a crazy stat where that man has yet to give up a run in an elimination game for the Giants in his career. So, I mean, that man has not given up a run.
It's nuts.
It's nuts. Absolutely
it's,
insane.
There's nothing more I can say about it, to be honest.
No.
So that does it for the wild card segment for us. We're going to throw it over to Andrew and Jiggy. Talk a little bit about football this week.
On this segment, we will be talking about teams that stood out in Week 6 of the NFL. So let's get into it. What teams to you stood out when you watched the Sunday?
I was very impressed by what the Giants did, coming out with a win. Odell Beckham, 222 yards. He played football. He looked like he had a lot of fun. He looked like he was enjoying himself. And I was also very impressed with the Cowboys. Cowboys definitely showed me that young guys can definitely take over a game. How about you?
Going along with the Giants, I think it was a very big win to stir up that the NFC East a little bit. It's a very jam-packed division right now.
Right.
I could see all 4 of the teams making the playoffs at this point, to be completely honest with you. Odell Beckham Jr. definitely coming back to form. A lot of yards, a lot of touchdowns. So, I mean, he's on pace to get back to where he used to be. And
Definitely.
As far as the Cowboys go, again, NFC East team, I'm interested to see what the Cowboys do in the coming weeks with both Tony Romo and Dak Prescott. What do you think Jerry Jones has squared up for the team?
I think you should stick with Dak,
Yeah.
just for the simple fact of the matter. Everybody's comfortable with him. You've been playing all 6 weeks of the season, and everybody's gelling. Everybody's working together, everybody's playing, and everybody's winning, and everybody's enjoying his winning attitude. I'm not saying you shouldn't go back to Tony Romo, but sometimes it's always good to work with what you have, and then if things don't work out with Dak, then of course throw Tony back in there.
The only thing is, along with that, is timing could be an issue right now, because if you go to Tony right now and he doesn't do so well, you can't necessarily go back to Dak, because
Right.
that could create more tension than there already is in Dallas right now. So, I mean, my opinion is you go with the hot hand. Dak's win you games. It's a young team, so I would stick with Dak personally.
110% with that.
Another team that I thought stood out to me was the Miami Dolphins with a big win against the Pittsburgh Steelers.
For sure.
Obviously, Big Ben went down, gruesome injury. Hopefully, he'll be back in the next couple of weeks. But I mean, even when he was playing, it was 16-8 at halftime. So the Dolphins definitely came out firing. What do you think about that?
Dolphins is actually showing improvement, showing that they can, continue to improve throughout the years. I mean, obviously, Miami doesn't always win, but when they do, they, show a lot of, I want to say, I don't know what to say. Miami's just a different team.
No, I know what you mean.
Honestly, it's just a different environment.
So what do you think the outlook is for the Steelers for the next couple of weeks riding with Landry Jones as a?
I mean, Landry Jones, obviously, great quarterback in Oklahoma, but nothing's better than Big Ben.
The one thing with the Steelers, though, they do have the weapons. They have Le'Veon Bell back from injury. D'Angelo Williams was hot before Le'Veon came back.
Right.
They had the best receiver in the NFL, so they could be set. So I guess that division is definitely one to watch out for.
Definitely, for sure.
Any other teams that stood out to you?
I was definitely not too happy with the Jets in
Jets.
Arizona, but I mean the Jets definitely showed us as Jets fans it's time for change. Change has to come sooner or later, and things should happen. I don't know what it's going to be, whether it's the coaching staff or whether it's a quarterback change. I don't know, but something has to happen.
So let me ask you a question. So you're Todd Bowles right now. Who's
Yes.
starting at quarterback for you next week?
Geno Smith.
Geno Smith, and why is
Geno
that?
Smith, I think you should let him get his feet wet. I understand he didn't have too much of a great season in 2014, and you took him out last year, and he didn't do too much of a good job this preseason. But change has to happen.
Change happen.
We have to win. 1-6. It's just not a pretty look.
It's a shame
now.
that all that money that the Jets are paying to the backfield. This is what it's come to. But,
Oh man,
So-
it sucks. How about you?
So one more team that actually stood out to me was the Seattle Seahawks. They won 26-24. They're definitely coming along. They lost the first game, won 4 straight. So to me, they're the team to be in the NFC right now. Like I don't think the Minnesota Vikings are legit. Just my opinion, but I think the Seattle Seahawks are definitely the team to beat. Russell's coming along really well. The run game's there. And again, the defense is the defense, the Seattle defense.
Right.
Take it from where
How do you
it's
feel about that controversial call at the end? That was really really shaky one right there.
I mean, it is what it is. I mean, the NFL is getting a little softer. So with that, the referees are calling flags after flags. Just look at the Jets game last night. How many pass interference calls were there on the Jets last night?
A bunch. Too much to even watch. It's just a lot going on, man, with the Jets. But I mean, Richard Sherman showing that he can be one of the best safeties in the league.
Richard Sherman, yeah.
Richard Sherman, Stanford graduate. So very confident in himself. Obviously, it's a controversial call, but it's NFL, you know, big man game. You got to let the guys play, you know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
it's a wonderful thing.
So and one more team, my Philadelphia Eagles, tough loss to the Redskins. Do you think the Redskins are contenders or pretenders? Give it to me.
I'm going to say pretenders, just for the fact when it gets down to the playoff stretch, they don't really show up. I mean, it's cool they have Norman on defense now, but, you know, at the end of the day, when it comes to playoff time, you got to step up. And I don't feel like the Washington Redskins really step up when it comes to that time. So.
All right, so that's all for this segment on Sideliners. We're going to throw it back to Lenny and Nick to talk more baseball for you.
All right, thanks, guys. So we talked about the wild card so far. Let's talk about how those teams fared in the divisional series. So we'll start off with the Blue Jays. Going into that series with the Rangers, I mean, I talked about the Rangers. They were my World Series pick for the AL, and I guess you could say the Rangers look pretty punchless in the divisional series.
I like that.
They couldn't get anything going, and the Jays just trounced them, I feel like, game after game.
Yeah, couldn't get it done at home. The main thing, you know, they went out there and won 95 games, led the AL in wins. You like to think they can get by through the first round fairly easy. You have 2 games at home, game 5 if needed at home also. And they played well at home this year, you know, but, I mean, Toronto just came in hungry.
Yep.
I mean, it was insane. And it was a series that everybody was looking forward to. Everybody,
Oh, definitely.
You know, everybody had that, you know, feeling like, oh, this series is going to go game 5. These two, after all the bad blood with last year and then this year, everyone was ready. But Toronto just took care of business 1, 2, 3 and just moved on.
Yeah, it didn't even look like a series, to be honest. No. It was just literally the Toronto Blue Jays just having their way with the Rangers. And I think my favorite part of the series, to be honest with you, was right after game 3, Toronto wins at home, so you got the big celebration going. And the first cut after the final out goes to a banner that says, "I'd rather be punched in May than knocked out in June."
Yep.
I mean, knocked out in October, sorry. I just couldn't. That was great. I thought that was hilarious.
That was a good find. Whatever cameraman that is, get that man a promotion, get him a raise. That was fantastic.
Right after the last out. I thought that was just awesome.
Perfectly on cue, and the Rangers walking off. I mean, the way that they walked off the field that game pretty much summed up their whole tenacity and energy of that whole series. Just lagging, walking back, head down. I mean, there was no energy from the whole series.
So we go from the Jays Rangers, hop over to the other wild card team that made it, the Giants and Cubs. And as much as I really didn't think this series was going to be that great, and not because the Giants aren't a good team. I really think they are. Yeah. I just think the Cubs are so dominant. It's hard to keep pace with them. Mm-hmm. And the funny thing about this series was I feel like the Cubs pitchers hit better than their batters did. They were getting most of their RBIs. I mean, Hendricks, Arrieta, they were all doing their thing. What did you see in that series?
I mean, they were looking good. And the thing is, as we said before, the better team won there. I mean, the Giants coming off, you know, a really big high of beating the Mets, last inning heroics, you know. And then they go to Chicago, and Chicago's a whole different atmosphere. I mean, these fans are hungry. They've been waiting. And I love watching playoff baseball in Chicago so far. The Wrigley is on fire. And so the Cubs just went in there, did what they did all series. Joe Madden being Joe Madden, you know, finding different ways to win. And, I mean, right now I don't have anybody on the Cubs that's standing out. You know, there's not one guy, maybe Javi Baez.
Yeah.
But even him.
Definitely with that.
Yeah.
When he stole home that game.
Yeah,
I mean,
but the Cubs all around, they're playing very well, and they're playing together. They look good.
Yeah, it's not like another series we'll talk about with the Nationals where I feel like it was just Daniel Murphy.
Yeah.
The Cubs, it's just the whole team. They're always coming at you, batter after batter, pitcher after pitcher.
Yeah.
There's no weak spot in this lineup, I feel. There's no weak spot in the staff. It's not like the bullpen is laxing or anything. I mean, you have Chapman coming in. It doesn't get any easier when you get to the bullpen. So it almost wasn't fair to the Giants, I feel like. It was just too much coming at them. Mm-hmm. So then we go to my favorite series, to be honest. Both the Yankee fans up here.
Yeah.
None I love seeing more than the Red Sox losing.
Yep.
And with the help of a former Yankee, too. I mean, you want to talk about, we talked how Showalter didn't use Britton right. We don't know if Terry Collins used Familia right, to be honest.
That's true.
What I love about Terry Francona, it's almost like the old days of baseball where he doesn't have a closer, an 8th inning guy, 7th inning guy. He just has middle relievers, long relievers.
Yeah.
Andrew Miller pitched in the 5th inning of a game.
Why
and
not?
looked great.
Yeah.
It worked perfectly. What'd you see in that
100%.
series?
And it's not just he has weapons. He has Brian Shaw, Cody Allen, Andrew Miller. That acquisition is obviously paying off
Perfectly.
And the Indians just have this chip on their shoulder, you know? I mean, they saw what the Cleveland Cavaliers did. I don't know if it's rubbing off on them, but they still have that mentality where it's like, you know what, everyone's overlooking us. Nobody thought they had a chance against the Red Sox. The Red Sox were heavily favored, Poppies last year, and they just went in there and just handled business. That's it. just smacked them down and said, "Hey, Poppy, have a good career.
Yeah,
Thanks for
exactly.
coming." And now they're on to the next one. It's insane. Terry Francona and what he does. This is a group of guys. I mean, look at 04. You cannot count that man out.
Nope.
Terry Francona is a future Hall of Fame, and I hope they get a ring this year.
Definitely a future Hall of Famer for Terry Francona. So when we talk about the last series, I mentioned it a little earlier. We had Dodgers Nationals, and I feel like this is, you got both sides of the tape here. Clayton Kershaw, dominant in his game, gets the save in the last game. Then you go to a superstar who doesn't perform with Bryce Harper. There's got to be a time when we hold him accountable. You got to come up in the big games. Like I said, Daniel Murphy is really the only guy who did anything.
Honestly.
This guy's he wasn't hitting the home runs that he was last postseason.
No.
I mean, he wasn't hitting the home runs. He was just driving in runs this
Yeah.
time. What did you see?
I mean, and also you can't. Two big injuries for the Nationals really hurt them with Steven
definitely,
Strasburg, obviously. That's their guy. And Wilson Ramos. Although Lobaton did hit a home run, Wilson Ramos is a rock behind the plate.
Yeah, that one definitely
That
hurt.
relationship, that pitcher-catcher relationship can't go unnoticed. And they hung in there. You know, they took them to 5 games. And it just, these two teams for so long have been favorites in the NL, I'd say within the past 5-6 years. And they just cannot get past. They cannot move on to a World Series. And so to see these two play each other in the first round, it was kind of like perfect. Like, yeah, of course, one of these guys aren't going to make it to the NLCS.
At least one of them's finally going to make it.
Yep.
But when you brought up the injuries, I mean, we just talked about the Indians. They didn't have 2 starters, and they were able to handle their business.
Yeah.
So I don't even want to give them the benefit of the doubt with the injuries, because I know the loss of Strasburg is big. But, I mean, the Mets lost to Grom.
True.
Maybe
And
he
Harvey.
started that game, and Harvey. I don't know if he would have pitched in that wildcard game, though, to be honest.
No.
So injuries are such a part of every sport. I really don't accept that as an excuse.
That's a good point.
If the one guy, if Bryce Harper was hurt, I'd understand, but he wasn't. He was there. So they should have, in my opinion, they should have moved on. I think they were the better team.
Yeah.
They didn't have the best pitcher, and I think that's what it came down to. I mean, Kershaw gets a save that last game. So I don't know. That's my take on that.
And Corey Seager, his emergence.
my
Think
God,
about
Corey
that.
Seager.
Young kid just took over, and I mean, he did what big-time players are supposed to do. He did what I
definitely.
expected Bryce Harper to do, and that's why his team moved on.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. So that'll wrap up the division series for us. We're going to throw it back over to Andrew and Jiggy.
Thanks, guys. So, Jiggy, the next thing I want to talk to you about is players that stood out in Week 6. Let's start off with receivers. What receivers stood out for you?
Of course, Odell Beckham, 222 yards, definitely proved he could be one of the greatest wide receivers to ever touch the football field. His anger didn't get the best of him. He showed the Baltimore Ravens what he's capable of doing, demolished their defense. What about you?
A receiver that stood out for me, it was definitely Brandon Cooks, who went 7 for 173 and 1 touchdown. That Saints offense is very powerful.
Yeah.
And I really do like Brandon Cooks. He's on my fantasy team, so I like watching him play. He's short, he's quick, he's agile, so he's definitely stood out for me the past couple of weeks.
Okay.
Moving on to running backs. What running backs stood out for you?
Ezekiel Elliott. Ezekiel Elliott definitely showed us that, young guys can take over this league. He reminds me a little bit of Matt Forte when he was on Chicago. Just when Matt Forte was on Chicago, how aggressive he was running the ball. He digged in. He was grit and grind. What about you?
So I agree with you 100%. He went 28 for 157.
Yeah.
Des Bryant said that he's on pace. He's going to be the next 2,000-yard rusher, which is big praise from obviously a receiver of that caliber. Yeah.
Right.
I think that David Johnson last night went completely off. He went 22 for 111, 3 touchdowns. Watching him is very, very fun. He's a very, very good downhill runner.
Yeah.
He's athletic. He's fast. What do you think about him?
Very, very fast. He embarrassed the Jets defense 110%. Showed the Jets defense, you guys are little kids to me, very powerful, very fast, very strong. I think a guy that we sleep on is Eddie Lacy. He's a power runner. He reminds me a little bit of Marshawn Lynch, but of course he's injured.
And there's also so many other weapons on that Green Bay offense that can definitely get it done. Rodgers,
sure.
Randall Cobb. A sleeper for the past week was Dolphins running back Jay Ajayi. He went 25 for 204 and 2 touchdowns. That is, I would not have predicted that from Jay Ajayi. What do you think about him?
You can put the ball in his hands. You can trust him. You know he's going to grind it out. You know he's going to try his hardest to get a touchdown. He's going to fight for that extra yard. And that's what you need, especially for a team like Miami who needs wins at this point. So
in the future, you have Jay Ajayi, obviously, and Aaron Foster coming back from an injury. that's not a bad running back tandem if you're being honest.
I don't see playoffs, but
No, obviously not in that division.
Of course.
Obviously, Lamar Miller from Texans went
Yep.
24 for 149 and a touchdown. He looks very good and definitely saving that Houston offense because Osweiler is not getting it done.
Osweiler's definitely held himself to high expectations. Everybody was expecting for him to have that magical year, especially coming off of that that contract year with Denver. But he showed up, I guess.
And moving on to quarterbacks, I had Drew Brees. He had 465 passing yards and 4 touchdowns. I thought he's a very reliable quarterback. Obviously, he has been for the past 10 years or so.
Yeah.
What do you think about him?
Drew Brees earned his contract. He's not going to be in the league any longer, but I know he can definitely lead New Orleans somewhere. Definitely showed me that Drew Brees when they won the Super Bowl a few years back. So I definitely was surprised. But actually, I'm going to go with the opponent, Cam Newton. Cam Newton showed us that he can be the Cam Newton that he was last year, MVP. But of course, 1-5, not too well. But you've seen little flashes of how good Cam Newton can be. You've seen little flashes of what he can, what he can do, and obviously being that team leader. So
It's honestly surprising with Benjamin coming back that this would be his performance thus far, but he's just not getting it done. Playoffs option or no?
No,
Too
not
far.
at all.
I agree. Too far gone. Too far
but-
gone. And the next thing I want to talk about is Colin Kaepernick. Finally earned the start for San Fran. He went 187 yards in the air, a touchdown, and 66 yards on the ground. What do you think of his performance?
I was proud of him. I'm happy. That was his first touchdown in the whole year.
Oh, wow.
And it was just, it was good to see Colin Kaepernick back on the field, and with all the controversy of the whole, situation that's going on, it was good to see him focus on football. It was good to just see Colin Kaepernick, playing football and not just, what he was going on.
So and they recently named him the starter for the second week. So I don't know if I would necessarily say he's the future, but I guess for the rest of the season he is.
He's the guy.
Over
He's the go-to
Kaepernick.
guy.
Another running back I want to talk about actually is one of my favorite players to watch, Shady McCoy, who had 140 yards on the ground and 3 touchdowns. What do you think about Shady McCoy?
Very strong. I seen him run, and I watched the game this past weekend, and he just showed me flashes of greatness. McCoy can definitely run the ball, very strong. Nobody can bring him down. I think it was one play, it was like 5 guys on his back, and he kept running. I was like, this guy is crazy. But, he definitely can do it.
And he went down for a brief period of time this past weekend.
Yeah.
Came back, showed his versatility, especially on that team. They're a surprise winning team right now.
Yeah.
I don't think they compete in that division at all. But so any other standout players from this past week?
I was one little statistic I definitely read up on. Eli Manning will be the 8th quarterback to throw 300 touchdowns, so that's definitely something. Eli Manning, once you're a Manning, you're always a Manning, and he's definitely showing it. So.
All right, so give it to me right now. Who's at mid-season right now, almost mid-season? Who's your NFL MVP?
My NFL MVP for the season would have to go to.
Don't mean to put you on the spot or anything, but
Wow, you threw me under the bus.
Name stand out to me. It's got to be Zeke Elliott.
Rookie of the year, of
Rookie of the
course,
year.
but you got guys on other running backs who can definitely show up. But I want to say Ezekiel Elliott too. With Des Bryant holding so much praise up to him, I don't see why not.
That would be my guess as well. So that's it for this segment. We're going to throw it back to Nick and Lenny to talk a little more baseball.
All right.
All right, guys, thanks. So, talk about the championship series. I don't know. Talk about the Indians first.
Yep.
So, let me get your predictions. How long you think it's going to go?
All right. Well, they took care of business at home, took care of those first 2 games, lost this first one in Toronto. But it's going to happen. No team, they won 6 straight games in the postseason.
Lost yet.
That's incredible. But, I'm sure they can get back on track. I like the Indians to win at least the American League, and then see what happens once, the World Series comes. But right now, the Indians look really good. Toronto, those big bats haven't really been there this series so far. Troy Tulowitzki hasn't showed up at all this postseason, I don't think. His name has been irrelevant. Jose Bautista
definitely.
has definitely been irrelevant. It's pretty much they're riding there Encarnacion and Josh Johnson train right now. But if those guys can get going, then I'll see a little competition. But right now, Cleveland's just really taking advantage of them being absent.
How many games you got?
I like Cleveland as 6.
I definitely agree with you there. Coming into tonight's game, they'd only given up 1 run to this
Powerhouse lineup.
this powerhouse Toronto lineup. you got Kluber coming in, pitching Game 4. I think he's going to be able to right the ship. He's looked pretty good this postseason and really this season in general.
Yep.
So I think he's going to be able to hold it down. I think they win Game 4. I'll give Toronto Game 5, just puncher's shot, and then I'm giving it to Cleveland in 6. So we hop over to the other side, Cubs-Dodgers. It's been a pretty good series so far. I mean, Miguel Montero comes in, pinch hit grand slam, Game 1. I mean, it doesn't get bigger than that. That's huge. I mean, for a guy who's not even starting that game, I mean, that's huge. That's clutch. But give it to the Dodgers. I mean, Clayton Kershaw comes in, pitched a gem, and knotted up 1-1.
1-1. That's a playoff game right there. That 1-0. You know, electricity in the air at Wrigley Field. That's fantastic.
Yep.
I like the Cubs to come back. Right now they're losing Game 3. It looks like they'll fall behind 2-1. I like the Cubs to come back. I think this one will go 7. I think.
Yep.
I mean, they still have Kershaw for another possibly 2 games. He might throw Game 7. I still like the Cubs. It'll be at Wrigley Field. I feel like it's their year to at least make the postseason. I don't see them making the NLCS 2 years in a row and not going to the World Series.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. I'm going to go with Cubs. I'll go Cubs in 6.
Yep.
And then Chicago-Cleveland World Series. That should be a lot of fun. So that does it for us for baseball. We're going to go back over to Jiggy and Andrew to finish up some football talk.
Thanks, guys. So in the final football segment of the show, I want to talk to you a little bit about Tom Brady coming back. What have you seen from him so far?
I mean, 800 yards in 2 games. That's unbelievable. I'm glad to see Tom Brady's back in his normal shape, back in his normal form. The Patriots is back. With the whole quarterback issue, with him being gone for 4 games. I'm just glad to see that he's back, and I'm glad to see Patriots is back. So.
No, I definitely agree. And so Patriots were very dominant with Garoppolo.
Yep.
Not so dominant with Brissett. So now when you put the best quarterback in the NFL, in my opinion, back on that team, which is already stacked on both sides of the ball, I can't see them not winning, not only the AFCs, but I feel like the AFC, the conference as well. But they're definitely the team to watch out for.
For sure.
Again, like you said, 800 yards in 2 games, like that. Some quarterbacks don't get that in half the season, so it's definitely impressive. And also with Gronk coming back, it's a recipe for success, in my opinion. You know, they're running the ball fine, tossing it to Gronk, tossing it to Edelman outside. So I feel good about it. You as well?
Patriots is back. It's Patriots football.
Are back.
Bill Belichick knows what he's doing.
So that's all for this segment. We'll be back after this commercial break.
All right, good stuff. And we'll be back after this quick commercial break.
All right, good stuff, guys. We got 30 seconds. We'll come back and we'll talk about basketball, right? Talk about basketball?
Yeah, sounds good. The Knicks have been horrible lately.
Yeah. All right.
Always coming for us.
All right. Let's dump out and we'll come back in 5, 4, 3, 2. Take 2. Cue talent.
Yeah, I don't think his mic's working.
Should we go fix that?
Nah.
Let's leave it.
We're good.
This is Sideliners.
All right, that'll do it for all of us here at the Sideliners on Wire TV. We'd like to thank you for joining us. Join us next time for another great episode, and we'll see you later.